All right, so let's see. This is a pretty cool story. Okay, so let's see. This is a pretty cool story. This one I guess this one happened in about 1993, I'm guessing. Yeah, it's about right. 1993. So there was this Tibetan punk western microbrewery in Arlington, Virginia called the Amdo Rodeo. And me and my buddy Robster the Mobster, are chilling late in the evening at a booth, and we've gotten a picture of one of, I want to call it Black Watch is what they were serving us that night. And anyway, so we're drinking this really dark, danky brew that these guys have made. It's one of the earliest breweries in Virginia, microbreweries at the time, and we're chilling, and all of a sudden this girl comes up to our table, and she really cute girl, and she comes and she sits down, and she's kind of looking around, and she says, "Can I sit with you guys? I'm hiding from my bodyguard." And my buddy Rob says, "Yeah, sure, yeah." And I was like, "Rob, this is the part of the movie where we get our ass kicked, right?" And she's like, no, they don't even know I'm in the building. I snuck in the building. Like, you guys are good. If I can just sit here, I just want to chill here. And so we're like, okay. So we, go up to the bar, we get her a mug, and we start drinking with her. And we're kind of, at that point, we're trying to pry her for information, but she didn't really want to talk about it too much. So we just, talking smack and all the stuff that we got going on. And they eventually like kick us out, and we're a little bit worried about leaving. And so she does the scouting and is like, looks out the door and everything. And she's like, "Nah, it looks cool." And she's like, "What are you guys doing?" And after you leave, and we're like, we're gonna go back to Rob's, because he takes pinball machines and he strips them down, and he re-silk screens them, and he's just and he makes his own pinball games out of older ones, and he just came up with one called Dig It. And the idea on Dig It was to like increase your orb. So we were totally into that kind of a sci-fi theme, and he had a couple others that he was planning on doing, but that was one we were going to mess with that night. So she's like, "Well, can I roll with you guys?" So we're like, okay. So her name was Rihanna, and Rihanna ends up coming back to Rob's house, and he's like brewing his own beer there too. So we're kind of doing the microbrew thing and playing pinball all night, and I had to roll back to Charlottesville, Virginia, because I had to bartend that night. So I kind of got up and scooted out while everybody was still passed out around 2:00 in the afternoon, as bartenders often do. And I didn't think anything about it after that. I was like, "Oh, that was a cool night." And then Rob started telling me that he had gotten to know Ariana, and it ended up that Ariana's boyfriend was I don't know, he was Saudi. I don't know, I want to say he was like an accountant at the embassy or something like that. But Mohamad was an interesting guy. He probably stood 5 feet tall, maybe 100 pounds wet, this like little skinny guy. And once I got to know him, like, we'd go over to his apartment over in Arlington, Virginia, and Rihanna and him be hanging out, and he drank Johnny Walker Blue. I'd never heard of Johnny Walker Blue when I was a bartender, but I mean, that stuff apparently costs a pretty dollar. So the first time I go in to Mohamad's place, he's like, "Hey, you want a drink?" I'm like, "Sure." And he like pours like a half a pint of Johnny Walker Blue into this glass and hands it to me, and I'm just thinking, like, what the frick's going on here? I'm not drinking that. And I took a couple sips of it because I'm not going to waste nice Johnny Walker, but and I gotta admit the blue's good. The blue's good. But this guy was out of my league when it came to like drinking. Because, you know, he's Saudi and they don't do that. But he did that because he was in America. So, anyway, Rob's chilling with Mohamad and Rihanna, and then my brother gets to know him. And then my brother, I'll throw this one in because this is a funny one. My brother starts going, well, let me back up. There would be times where we're at like Mohamad's place. He's like, well, all right, before we go out, I gotta do something on the computer. And we're all standing there, and he's like transferring like $12 million back in 1993 via computer. Like, I'm watching this going, what the frick? This is like from Mars. You're transferring $12 million on a computer? Anyway, he's like, before we leave, I gotta go do this, and here's some more Johnny Walker Blue in your pint glass, you know, let's go party, you know. So anyway, then my brother comes to me, and my brother's like, hey, Mohamad asked me if I would change some light bulbs and do a little bit of work at this place. I'm not sure where it was or what the place was, that maybe, you know, he could pay me like $500,000 and I would do like a little bit of work if I gave him half of it. And he's like, what should I do? Man, should I do that? He's like, dude, that's $250,000. I said, man, are you freaking kidding me? You want the Saudi government mad at you? Jesus, man, they freaking cut people's hands off for stealing a loaf of bread. They'll fucking take you, put you in a Lear jet, take you back to Saudi Arabia and feed you to some lion. It's like, no, you don't want to do that. And anyway, so he wasn't stupid enough to take that job. But what he ended up doing at one point, here I am, I'm bartending in Charlottesville, you know, down at UVA at this kind of island-themed Jimmy Buffett-esque cool little gig that I had going on called St. Martin's Cafe at the time. And I get a phone call at my house, and it's my brother, and he's like, hey, man, get your shit together. Mohamad is going to send a limo to your house to pick you up, and then the Saudi Lear jet is going to come to Charlottesville Airport, and they're going to pick us up there, and then he's going to fly us all to Atlantic City, and he's going to give us all, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 to gamble in Atlantic City, and then we're all going to go to Woodstock. And I was like, dude, I can't do that. I got to work in like a couple hours. I can't do that. And my brother's like, did you hear what I was saying? Like, he's like, dude, a limo is coming to your house to pick you up, to take you to the Lear jet, to take you to Atlantic City, and then we're going to Woodstock. This is like 1993, I guess. And so, no. Yeah, at this point it was 94. Woodstock was 94. So I started making phone. I was like, all right, let me see what I can do. Right? Because I had to work, and I wasn't giving that. I wasn't missing I made good money. I wasn't missing that shift just so I could go get myself in trouble with Mohamad and my brother. So, but it was pretty tempting. So I call everybody. Nobody's doing it. No one's taking the shift. Nobody will do my shift. So I call my manager. He's like, no, I can't do it. Call the owner. He's like, no, can't do it. So I call my brother up, and I'm like, look, man, I can't do this, man. I can't lose my job just because Mohamad wants to party, right? So I bailed. I know y'all think I'm crazy, but I bailed. So anyway, they did it anyway. They went up to New Jersey, and apparently, according to my brother, they lost about $3,000 in a half hour. And when everybody was sufficiently toasted on Johnny Walker Blue and whatnot, they tried to get a limo, and they couldn't get a limo to go to Woodstock. So then they tried to just rent like a town car, and they were also smashed that no one was going to give them a car. So apparently Mohamad like called up a taxi, and when the taxi showed up, they all got in, and he's like, take us to Woodstock, New York. And the guy's like, get the hell out of my taxi. And they're half smashed, but Mom had pulled out a big wad of cash and was like, look, man, take us to Woodstock, New York, and I'll give you, I think it was like, I don't know, $1,000. This is 1993. $1,000 was a good chunk of change to drive to Woodstock, New York and back for a cab driver. So he was in, right? So they all get in the cab and get their crap together and roll to Woodstock, New York in a cab. And when they get to Woodstock, this is all according to my brother at this point. There's a sea of people. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people. And the guy's like, okay, here you are. And Mohamad's like, no, I'm paying you $1,000 to take me to Woodstock. And I mean Woodstock. So my brother's like, so here we are in a cab with thousands of people around us driving like 2 miles an hour till we get up to where you get in. And he's like, I don't know how the hell the guy got out, because he had to drive against the crowd out of there, and it was just, there wasn't like a road anymore. It was just a bunch of people, trekking in. And then, so my brother said, he's like, so before we went in, he's like, we went to this like little 7-Eleven or Dollar General or something like that, and he goes, and I went and bought a gallon of water for myself and a gallon of water for Mohamad, and then I bought a box of trash bags, like those 30-gallon black trash bags. And Mohamad's like, what's this for? What's this for? My brother said, dude, you're going to be begging me for this shit later. Just shut up and we're getting it, right? So they go in there, and it's, that 1994 Woodstock was a catastrophe. It was mayhem. And my brother called it pretty well. So they get in there, and they were selling like you trade Woodstock money once you get in there, and once they got a hold of your money, you got this like funny money, and then that all broke down, and so nobody was taking funny money, and unless you had cash. And then it started raining, and it turned into a mosh pit, and Mohamad was not groomed for such situations, but my brother's a pretty good survivor. And so my brother was funny. He was like, man, it's nighttime, it's fucking pouring rain, and there's these lights in the background, and we are wearing trash bags because that's the only thing that was going to keep us dry, and we both have a gallon of water. And Mohamad, all he had was his ATM card, and it was like a scene out of a Vietnam movie on a muddy hill trying to make it up. And my brother said he's got his hand in the air and he's screaming, ATM, ATM, hoping that like he's gonna find an ATM, and he's sliding through the mud, and he's all covered in mud. And then my brother's like, he's like, so I'm like dragging his little 5 foot tall, 90-pound scrawny ass up, holding on to 2 gallons of water for both of us, and a box of trash bags to keep us dry. And he's like, we're wandering through this just nasty, messed up crowd. Looks like something out of a war scene. And finally I come upon this camp of people who obviously got there early because they had set up a camp. There was no more room to put things down, but these guys had created a campfire and sent tents up, and people hadn't infringed upon their camp. He's like, so I roll in, and I'm like, hey, this dude's the Prince of Saudi Arabia, and I got to take care of him, and can we have access to one of your tents, because he needs some sleep. And Mohamad's still yelling ATM, and he's like all muddy. And so my brother's like, that's the only thing that freaking saved us. And he's like, then I hung out with those guys, and You know, they had a campfire. I got dried off, and after that, everything was cool. And then, so now here's the cool twist on the whole thing. So here I am, probably, I don't know, 15 years later, and I'm still working at the same. God, I don't know if it was 15. Yeah, I don't know, maybe 12 years later. Still working at the same cool Jimmy Buffett-esque place called St. Martin's at UVA, Charlottesville. And there's a manager, and his name's Russ. And Russ starts telling me his story about when he went to the 1994 Woodstock. And he told me, well, you know, I was an Eagle Scout, and we used to follow the dead. And so we were pretty good at doing the concert thing. And he's like, so I brought a bunch of buddies, and we went to go see the Woodstock, you know, thing. And we brought our tents and everything. And he's like, and we had set up a ring around a fireplace, around a fire pit. And we had our tents all set up. And he goes, and this guy rolls in at one point, and there's this, and he's like, this is the Prince of Saudi Arabia. And he needs a place to sleep. And I was like, holy crap, this is the second time I've heard this story from a whole different angle. And so out of all of those people at that entire concert, my brother had run into the guy that was managing the bar I worked at, and it took 12 years later to hear both of their stories to put it together. And once I had figured that out, I told my brother about it, and when he came in and met Russ, sure as hell, it was my brother who had met Russ in the midst of the entire Woodstock with Mohamad. Now, Mohamad is not the Prince of Saudi Arabia, but my brother was just trying to sell whatever he could to stay dry. So that's the gist of that story. It's pretty funny. And you know what? They went to the original Woodstock and rode a cab and spent $3,000 in New Jersey gambling. And you know what? All I got was a stupid T-shirt. Peace.